get away from that normal studio interviews of Talk Piksa and do something a little different this time, we'll revisit the last found tribe of Papua New Guinea, the Hagahai. They were discovered about 7 years after Papua New Guinea's independence. The population then was about 300 to 500. Now it is about 3,000, and that is not to say they are any better. Still distanced by time and geography, neglected by Waigani, and almost forgotten by the rest of the country. February 3rd, the Hagahai made history. It had its first educated person graduate with a diploma in nursing.
As being a first person from that area to be brought up to this level, I'm more than happy.
Benjamin Nangan is 32 years old, married, and comes from Mamusi of Hagahai. The Hagahai live along the bordering edges of at least 5 provinces, Madang, Anga, Western and Eastern Highlands provinces, and on the periphery of East Sepik. For them, the term "in the middle of nowhere" couldn't be any true. Benjamin's village of Mamusi has seen some form of development. The other parts of Hagahai, called Yilu and Mangamau, have virtually nothing. It's a corner still in the dark. As the only educated person of Hagahai, Benjamin then becomes a beacon of light. Firstly, to get an appreciation of the plight of the Hagahai, the remoteness, the neglect, and even the denial, here is a flashback to the first television program of the Hagahai back in the 1990s.
Papua New Guinea has come far from a stone age to a jet age in a relatively short time. In its quest to go forward to either catch up or get ahead, Papua New Guinea has overlooked one tribe, a victim of either colonial boundaries, deliberate neglect, or simply a mistake. The Hagahais of Madang are a living proof that Papua New Guinea has left behind a tribe still living in its old ways. The first unsuccessful government patrol was attempted in the early 70s. The first contact was made in 1984. Dr. Carol Jenkins of the Papua New Guinea Institute of Medical Research was with a team that first made contact. She was able to capture first pictures of the Hagahais.
When we came with the Kiops who wanted to simply census and look at the situation, we were looking at nutrition and any kind of health circumstances we could figure out. And it was obvious from the numbers that there were very few people. The people explained they were dying out. They had been losing people at a fast rate, and their nutrition was extremely poor. And it looked like a very burdened population, a very sick population.
The first contact, however, was not easy. The people were scared, and in this particular area, there was some resistance.
Before the patrol took off to the Mia area of the western strata of this area, we saw people on this ridge. They had one long house, and they were very well decorated, and they had bows and arrows.
They had their fights, and they had their problems that took place here, and revenge fights and some killings. They're not big killers like some of the big groups, but there were some killings, and they learned that the Kiops would take them to jail, and they were trying to avoid that.
Since the people didn't have a name to be referred to, Dr. Jenkins decided to call them Hagahais. Hagahai means you people. The Hagahais have been and are still today hunters and gatherers. They are small people by nature. Men are what we might say breadwinners. They have done some gardening. Dr. Jenkins has returned to the Hagahais on several occasions since her first contact and has written several articles on the ways the people live. A disturbing factor, she's found, is that many people died, particularly newborn babies, as well as adults, from infectious and contagious diseases. The Baptist Union pioneered into the Hagahai territory preaching the word of God, but it left abruptly, leaving behind only a coffee nursery. Government agents made little to no attempt to save what was a dying tribe, a tribe many would like to refer to today as the last tribe in the 20th century Papua New Guinea. Dr. Jenkins has been persistent in making regular trips to Hagahai, taking in medical supplies more than anything else. The earlier contacts had left the Hagahais more vulnerable to sicknesses they had never had to suffer from or die from before. Today there is an aid post, medically stocked from a special fund from private contributions. It's a small relief for a fairly sick tribe. Seeking proper medical treatment outside is near impossible. The nearest Sangapi airstrip from Hagahai for a sick person is at least over a week's walk. Airlift by chopper is remote. Even if that was possible, the sick Hagahai would be unwilling to leave home for the unknown. For the young boys of Hagahai, it is often a case of survival. They have to adapt to the bush life at a fairly early age. Any chance of proper education for the children of Hagahai and introduction to the world outside their immediate environment is far remote at this stage. If anything points towards some form of learning, it's a pigeon school initiated by people outside government about 3 years ago. The teacher at this stage is a Peace Corps volunteer, Catherine Koke. Catherine has been in Hagahai for 8 months. Peace Corps requires Catherine to teach only, but she sometimes acts as an aid-post orderly when there is no government medical worker. Catherine just can't press lessons on sick students. Her students range from 6 to 40 years old. It's a bold initiative to introduce some form of literacy. There are also the drawbacks.
The people here are a hunter-gatherer type tribe, so it's very difficult to get anyone to come on a regular basis. I have problems all the time having them come for one day and then they disappear for 2 weeks.
Catherine has at least one female regular student. She is Chiboria, about 16 years old. Her mother, Maura, not only encourages her to go to school, but other mothers to send their daughters to the pigeon classes. That's rather rare. Young girls don't attend the pigeon classes, nor do their parents encourage them. But Catherine is hopeful of something good in Chiboria so that others can change their minds and attend the pigeon classes. On September 1992, 12 Hagahai men decided to break their isolation. They decided to show and tell the rest of Papua New Guinea their existence. With the help of Dr. Jenkins and Catherine, they walked 4 days from Hagahai to the nearest airstrip and flew on to Mount Hagen. For many in the team, they had only known their own environment. The journey outside their village was quite an experience. At the showground, the 12 Hagahai men won the praise of both showgoers as well as Miss Meg Taylor, who had opened the 1992 biannual Goroka show. Miss Taylor, who is Papua New Guinea's ambassador to the United States and Canada, has visited the Hagahai, and since 1993 is the year of the indigenous people, she is working to help preserve the Hagahai's natural environment.
There are other things that live in the forest that can be, if we use them sustainably, that means we don't exploit them.
a little different. That's nearly 20 years ago. That was Hagahai. Not a lot has happened since, but like all other things, there has to be a start somewhere, however small. We'll show you that in Benjamin Nangan, the first educated Hagahai, and what he might mean for the last found tribe of Papua New Guinea. That's after the break. Talk picture. The Divine Word University in Madang this year saw a record number of students graduate, over 1,740. Over 50% were females. It was a milestone for that higher learning institution. President of DWU, Father Yang Chuba, said the university was answering the government's call for more educated Papua New Guineans, and not just that, but realistic and committed people to drive the economy, the country, forward. Just that line couldn't be any true for Benjamin Nangan, who graduated with a diploma in nursing. Benjamin now not only has to treat the sick as he is trained to do, but also to help move a whole community forward, the Hagahai, the last found tribe of Papua New Guinea. Benjamin Nangan is from Mamusi, a part of Hagahai that has some physical sign of progress. It now has a health center of which Benjamin is the head. In fact, Benjamin is the head of just about every service agent of government. In the absence of all, he is the policeman, the DPI officer, the educationist, and many more. Benjamin is in charge of between 3,000 to 3,500 Hagahais. Recently, 2 council wards have been established. The Hagahai come under the electorate of Middle Ramu, of which the political head today is Tommy Tomskol, the Minister for Agriculture. Mr. Tomskol has some work to do when it comes to the Hagahai. So has Benjamin. But priming Benjamin to where he is today is another chapter. The only school in Hagahai is at Mamusi, and it's only up to grade 4 this year. Benjamin is fortunate to have been educated outside.
I was with the community back in 1984, and the Baptist Union of Papua New Guinea, they came to my village. And then one of the pastors by the name Pastor Ngangan from Kompiam in Enga province, he brought me out to Kompiam and put me in school. And I did my grade 1 up to 6 in Kompiam Community School, and grade 7 up to grade 10 in Kompiam High School. And then I was fortunate that I was selected to do my grade 11-12 at Sogeri National School. So I completed my grade 11-12 at Sogeri National School from 1997 to 98. And then I was selected to Goroka School of Nursing in Goroka.
After completing his health training at the Goroka School of Nursing in 2003, Benjamin went back to Mamusi to treat his sick. It was a 10-year engagement where he would treat as many as 100 patients each day, mainly for malaria. It was there that he met his wife, Christina. Shy and of few words, it has been a whole new world and life for her. But she has adapted.
Me stop the place yet, me bla stop the place, so me bla me look me na me married.
They have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. His eldest son is now in grade 4 at a school in Madang. Madang has been the opening for more learning for Benjamin himself. Sir Peter Bata and the Melanesian Foundation got behind Benjamin, sponsored him to complete a diploma in nursing at the Divine Word University.
Well, I guess it was about 30 years ago that I first became involved with the Hagahai, not as a Member of Parliament, but as an individual and a friend of Dr. Carol Jenkins, who was a physical anthropologist at the Institute of Medical Research. When she left, she was worried about who was going to take over the work that she had started in relationship to looking after the Hagahai people. So I inherited the Hagahai to a large extent. And when we did, we of course met Benjamin, who at the time was a primary school student at the school that was sponsored by the Peace Corps in the United States.
Okay.
We took over and we met the education costs, not only for him but a lot of the Hagahai people. And the rest is history.
Benjamin was one of over 1,740 graduates of the university with PhDs, masters, bachelors and diplomas. It was the university's biggest since its inception, made formal in 1999 by an Act of Parliament. The keynote address at the graduation was from Prime Minister Peter O'Neill.
In a short time, I hope all of you will be in the workforce. Some in professions, some in small businesses, some in public service, some working on our own land, some in the growing resource sector development, and yes, I guess some of you might end up in politics.
Little did the Prime Minister know that among the graduates, Benjamin was all of what he mentioned. Benjamin could eventually end up leading his people as an elected leader.
Yes, maybe sooner or later I may involve in politics. That I wouldn't know. But I have plans, I have visions. Some 5-10 years later, I might be also involved in politics.
Yes, it is possible. Look out, Tommy Tomskol. But Benjamin's immediate concern is not politics, but the various functions he needs to perform at Mamusi, Mangamanu and Yilu. Talk Piksa, partnership appears to be a popular word, not particularly in relation to service delivery or project development. Partnerships between government and churches, with donor countries, NGOs, between government departments. But realistically and of immediate relevance is the partnership between the government and churches. A case in point is this corner of the central province, the Waitabe sub-district of Golala. It is an area of majestic rolling mountains and V-shaped valleys, rich in its own way. But it is a deception to realities on the ground. It is hard life for thousands who inhabit this part of the country. This particular area is called Ononge. There are no government agents here, never mind government services. The school to grade 6 at this point and health services are run by the Catholic Church. The church appears to have done that for more than 100 years. Anything that can be attributed to Waigani or government has been election disturbances and aftermath damage to church infrastructures. Recently, the church celebrated 100 years of the first Mass at Ononge. The service relived Father Dubois Jules, a French priest, who went there in 1913 and developed the place. He built a church, established a school, constructed horse tracks for transport between Port Moresby and Ononge.
In the mountains, we have the horse tracks that goes all around there. That's the horse tracks. The missionary is made to have the caravans and horses carry goods to the mountains. But also there is the version, the goi tracks. That's just right down here. It goes down to the river, cross, and then go up, and you come to the other point up there.
Bishop Rokus Tatamai of the Barena Diocese led celebrations and reflected the early developments.
He was a constructor of roads. The roads were needed for the mules or the horses, the caravans, to carry materials from the coast up into the mountains. And then eventually this also served to bring down some materials or some food stuff from the mountains to the coast. So this was the link, and he spent a lot of time doing up these roads, surveying and trying to peg the roads to find the right angles, how to make the way through the mountains, as you can now see and observe the many horse tracks that we still use today in the mountains. He was very creative. He also had a chance to look around the place. He discovered a big river with a waterfall. That is how he organized the people to be able to cut the big trees up the top and then float them onto the river that came down onto the waterfall. And there he built a hydro station with a sawmill, in which he prepared all the timber for the building of the church at Ononge and all the other related buildings like the priest house, the convent, the school. These were all coming out from the local timber. And of course he had also time to encourage people for agriculture, to especially grow coffee already at the time.
Sadly, Father Jules died in the early 1950s, and the church that he built was destroyed by Cyclone Justin in the late 1990s. But the cross he erected on Mount Albert stands testimony. The church presence is still strong at Ononge for the Goilalas, perhaps down on intensity and resourcefulness on the part of local priests. It nevertheless remains as the government providing services where there was no government and where there is none today.
Because officers will also make him lokam here, only no sakam, only no sarim talk lokam.
But that is not to say Papua New Guineans are also inconsiderate. A group of teachers from East Sepik have decided to confront isolation and went there to teach. And Clement, the church medical officer, is the hospital of Ononge.
We can handle this case here because we have penicillin injection.
It is this work by Christian churches in Papua New Guinea that has Prime Minister Peter O'Neill moving to consolidate the partnership that exists.
Do the funding, providing resources and support, as we do with many of the government church institutions throughout the country, both in education and health. This year we have put in close to 100 million kina from the 2013 budget to help fund these programs.
Ononge's elected representative, who is Goilala's MP Daniel Mona, has decided to side with Mr. O'Neill and his government with the hope that Ononge and indeed Goilala can get government services where there had been none.
Goila has been a very outback district, one of the least developed districts in the country. I have a lot of pressure from my electorate to provide the basic service delivery.
That's been Talk Piksa. We hope you enjoyed the show and that it might have meant something. Wish the Hagahais well as they try to catch up with the rest of us, and also the Ononges of Goilala in the Central Province as they try to rebuild. Until another show, thank you for watching.